Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Keisha King Show, where we discuss faith, culture, and politics, all geared towards the next generation. Today, I have a very special guest, someone who is near and dear to my heart. I will let her give you all of her amazing accomplishments and her background. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Kimberly Fletcher. Hello.
Hello, Keisha. Thank you for
Hi.
having me on.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for doing this with me, Kim. So, for everybody that does not know, Kimberly Fletcher is the founder of Moms for America. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is so inspirational. And honestly, just watching her these last couple of months has certainly become a mentor. She probably doesn't know that, but I kind of stalk her around the internet and just watch things that she writes and says, and just, somebody that I really look up to. So thank you for joining me, Kim.
You're welcome. And if I was going to have a stalker, I would definitely choose you.
Don't get any crazy ideas out there, you crazy people. But can you tell us a little bit give us some background about yourself? Who is Kimberly Fletcher?
Well, I am a mom. That is the most important thing to me. It's the biggest role that I have and the reason why I do everything that I do. So I guess it makes sense that I run Moms for America. I have 8 children and 6 boys and 2 girls. And those boys gave me a run for my money. But it was a very unique experience because I grew up with just 3 girls in the family, and having a house full of boys, it was a learning experience. I learned a lot about the difference between boys and girls.
Wait
So
a
I
minute. There's differences between boys and girls. You're kidding me.
I can attest to the fact.
Shocker.
Okay, so I will while I'm telling about myself, I'll have to tell you the best way to tell you about myself is how I have learned what I've learned, and it's kind of common sense. People know that there's a difference between boys and girls, but as a mom, I can tell you that I know that firsthand because when I would tell my boys, don't put metal in the microwave, or I tell my girls, if I tell my girls don't put metal in the microwave, they're like, okay. I tell my boys don't put metal in the microwave. And they're like, well, why? And I said, because it will catch on fire and it could blow up the microwave. And they go, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't do it. I'm like, then they want to test it out to see if it really does it. So
Right.
one of the most fun things that my boys did, one of my sons came home with this, I don't even know, in a homeschool project. He came home and he's like, do you know how to make fireworks in the microwave? And I'm like, no, and we should not do that. He's like, no, it's totally safe. We did it in co-op today. And I'm like, okay. He takes these green grapes and you put them in the microwave for like 3 seconds and they spark. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
that one's cool. It
That's
didn't blow
cool.
up. So I was totally okay with that one. But I have for the first, oh my gosh, probably 20 some years of our married life with my husband. It was all about kids, diapers, driving kids here to there. In 2004, I started Moms for America, and
Mhm.
it kind of transitioned from being that mom nurturer to being that mama bear protector, and it was
Mhm.
it was combined together. So there were 3 things that happened in 2001 that really changed my life, um, and it was well, 9/11. When 9/11 happened, that was a big change for me
Mhm.
because my husband was stationed at the Pentagon, and through a
Mhm.
series of miracles, he came home safe that day. But
Mhm.
I didn't know if he was going to come home safe because
Right.
everything was shut down and we couldn't communicate. I couldn't talk to him. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
thought that maybe he couldn't have made it there in time, and but my daughter had asthma, and the day before I took her to the doctor because she was having trouble breathing, and they gave her nasal cord, and that was right when nasal cord had just first come out, very expensive. And when I went to fill the prescriptions, her ID card had expired, which is what's attached to our insurance. And so when we went to I leaned up to the lady at the counter and I said, "Well, I'll just pay for them." And she said, "Well, one of these prescriptions is $125." And I said, "I'll see you tomorrow."
Right.
so, so I called my husband and I asked him if he could take Cassie to Quantico in the morning before he went to work to get an ID. And he said, "Well, I have this very important meeting at the Pentagon tomorrow, and we are going to be discussing, sharing." uplinks and satellite feeds and all that kind of stuff, because they had just finished the first section of the renovation
Oh,
of the
yes.
Pentagon,
Mm-hmm.
and they were moving everybody into that one area, and it was the one area that was hit. So he was supposed to be there right when that plane hit,
Oh my God.
but he was able to get a first morning appointment for Cassie to get her ID card, and so he was dropping Cassie off at school when the second plane hit, and they knew this was not an accident. He then came home and watched TV, called the Pentagon, got a report, watched the news for about 10, maybe 15 minutes. Every single one of those things slowed him down enough that he was just coming into the Beltway when the smoke billowed and the plane had just hit. And the next day, when he went into work and he saw on his email the return from some of the guys that he was supposed to meet with saying, hey, no problem. If you're going to be late, we'll just, we'll just start without you. And some of them didn't make it. So it was a very real sense of what freedom means and the cost of preserving it. And it was that day that I said, I dedicated my life to doing everything it took to make sure my children remained free. I literally went from being patriotic to being a patriot and understanding what that meant. The two other things that happened during that time is one of my sons developed a physical condition, which caused him to have to be homebound. He couldn't go to school. But when I went to the school to register him for homebound, they said, well, this could be a long-term condition, and homebound is just a small short-term program. Like, what am I supposed to do? And not even kidding, the person on the other side of that desk in the school board office said, well, have you considered homeschooling? And we had a friend that had moved into the community just a couple months before, who her husband was in the State Department, and they'd been homeschooling for 12 years. And so I called her up and asked for her help. She became my mentor, and within 2 weeks, I was sold hook, line, and sinker. And I couldn't believe the things that I was learning, the stories why did I not learn this in school? That's what I just kept saying over and over and over again. And then a few weeks later, I was invited to a town hall meeting by a friend. And I remember sitting there and listening to these state senators and representatives talking about things that directly impacted my life. And I remember leaning over to my friend and saying, does this stuff happen all the time? And he goes, yeah, without you. And I'm like, no, not anymore. So I started going to town hall meetings. I held constitution classes. I read everything I could get my hands on. I pulled all my kids out of school, and we've been on this adventure ever since, learning what the story of America is, what the principles of liberty are, why the Constitution is so important, and why this American dream, this incredible, beautiful vision of liberty for all, is worth preserving and fighting for. And that's what led me to found Moms for America in 2004. And then we've just been on the path ever since.
Yeah. It's such a wonderful organization. It's very unique. It's unlike anything that I've ever seen or been a part of. It's a very heart-centered organization where mothers truly, and our country, are truly at the heart of every single thing that we do, every initiative, every program, all of it. It is very much centered around what is right and what is good. And I just find that unique. Unfortunately, I mean, unfortunately it's not everywhere. Things like that aren't everywhere and in all organizations, but I really appreciate you taking the time to a lot of times those kinds of things, it's not us, it's God putting something in us to do things like that. So I appreciate you being obedient, because I would bet you dollars to donuts that it was a God thing for you.
No, it was. And that was another life-changing moment, because I remember it was 2004 during the election, and I learned a lot during that election. I learned the need for media training, because as a homeschool mom, I wanted to make everything fun. We kind of became the poster family for the Bush campaign during that election, just because he was the guy that we thought represented our values the most. And I had no idea why people kept calling us up. But here's the power of families, Quisha. I know this now because my posse's all grown up. Now we have grandchildren, and I'm like, well, they're my new posse. They're going to be the ones going door to door and passing out flyers. But my children, they really became. We became like this movement of cultural change, and I didn't realize that just having my family come to these various different events and rallies was so valuable. And I couldn't understand why people kept calling us up. We have this rally. We come to that. They literally were giving me a schedule all the way up to the election of these are all the places that we'd like you to be. Can you go to them? And I
Yeah.
was like, why do you care? But now, now I realize the optics of a family showing up is powerful with
Well,
your
and a
time.
family of what, 10? So
Yeah. Yeah, there were a few of us. So I wanted to make it fun for my kids if we're going to be doing this, So
yeah.
as a homeschool mom, I went to the teacher store, and they
Mhm.
have the scalloped borders that go around the bulletin boards. And so I bought three different kinds of those:
Mhm.
sparkly silver, sparkly blue, sparkly red. I layered them together, red, white, and blue. And then I put a
Mm.
big star in the front that said Bush fan. And all my kids were carrying these. Well, my kids learned so much during that experience
Mm.
because everybody was asking them where they got those hats. Where'd you get your crowns? Where'd you get your
Yeah.
hats? And so my kids started mass producing them and became little entrepreneurs, selling them for $5 off
Nice.
at these various different rallies. It was awesome. They'd come with them on their arms, and they're like $5, $5,
Right.
and
Oh,
they'd
I
use them
love
as
it.
money. It was
Talk about
awesome.
the American
The
dream. Like,
American dream, they were living it. So there were a lot of experiences that I had, but we also became media magnets. And
mhm.
so, the last thing you want when a microphone is shoved in your 4-year-old's face asking, why are you here, is for him to reply back, because my mom made me.
Right.
And so, I looked at my husband after the first time this happened, and I was like, hey, we need media training. He's military, so he was able to do that.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where my kids, like clockwork, no matter which one of them it was, they threw a microphone in their face. Why are you here? Because we care about our American values, and we feel like President Bush is going to support them, and we're supporting him.
Ooh.
Boom.
Okay,
So,
so the Bushes owe you big time because
big
I don't care when
time,
you have
big
a
time. And I'm
baby.
very
Oh yeah.
disappointed. And I'm very disappointed in the direction that family has gone. But yeah,
Seriously,
they
when
owe
you
me
have
big
a
time.
kid on the campaign trail with you, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, it's just something about kids and their love for country and just having them involved. When I was running the Black Voices for Trump office here in Jacksonville, I was making my daughters, put signs on the little those little picks, and so they were like getting volunteer hours, and they were being involved in the political process. They
Brilliant.
were around it. They heard all these speeches. They heard, they saw what it takes on the inside of a campaign. They learned a lot of stuff, but it's so important for kids to experience those kinds of things early because a lot of times, we just don't have kids involved. A lot of times adults are not even involved in those kind of things. And so you figure like, well, this stuff just kind of happens. It just happens on its own, and we have no idea of how important it is to be involved in politics, to be involved in especially local politics. That's kind of where my heart is, because those are the places where the things that are going to affect your everyday life, that's where it happens. And so getting kids involved early is super important. And so are a lot of your children still, even if they're not like politically involved, are they watching what goes on? I guess the question is, did that help shape them to really pay attention to everything else, like those early experiences?
It absolutely did, and it has helped them in all kinds of different ways, even beyond politics that I didn't realize. My son Zachary, he's my number 4 child.
Mhm.
He is now the what is he? Executive marketing director of a Fortune 500 conglomerate of
Mhm.
retirement centers in the Pacific Northwest.
Mhm.
And while he doesn't really like living in Liberalville, he does he does love his job.
Yeah.
And he tells me all the time, he's like, Mom, I'm a success because of you. I'm able to talk to
Mm.
people. I can talk to anybody. I can open a room. I can sell anything. And he said, it's
Mm.
because of you and taking me around and being at these different places and being able to articulate a message. He said, it's because of you that, and I
Yeah.
said, well, there comes a point in time, son, where you stand on your own feet and your own successes,
Yeah.
and you've way surpassed anything that I taught you.
Mm.
So, but the example that you lay and the foundation that you lay, every single one of my children, even our token liberal, God love her, she's not really as liberal as you think, because you have a common sense conversation with her, and she's like, oh, that is not right. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's socialism, you know.
Right,
And
right.
so she's very freedom minded. But every single one of them, my oldest son, he's like a huge, I don't even know. Everybody tells me, your son's a Twitter star. I'm like, no, I didn't know. I don't know. And my daughter writes these books about freedom. I have every
Yeah.
single one of them it's taken root, this idea of the American dream. And that's really what I wanted to instill in them, a
Mm-hmm.
love of learning, a sense of patriotism, not just for the country, but for the ideals that it stands for.
Yeah.
And that means, you work hard and you want to be able to keep the fruits of your labors,
Right.
and share it with your family, and serve within your community. Those
Um,
are really the foundational principles that we taught, and those are American foundational principles. And when they
absolutely.
have those, it's what they leap from and they launch
Mm.
from, and it's like a guiding force in every decision that they make. So
Yeah.
I would have to say that it was definitely worth every rally, every door knock, every flyer that we dropped off, because it has instilled a love of not just the country,
Yeah.
but what it stands for, and they're willing to fight for that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm so grateful to hear that, and I feel like my daughters are like that as well. Where that little bit of experience that they got, they're so they're like, oh my God, I don't want anybody. They're at the stage like, I don't want anybody to know that my mother's a conservative, which is it's.
You have such beautiful daughters, and you know
Thank
what?
you.
They may sound like they're not interested, but I will tell you from where I am, I can tell you that they are listening,
They are.
and they are watching, and it
Oh yes.
will impact them even when they're rolling their eyes at you right now.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely do. But when we're home and they see something on the news, or on their phones or whatever, particularly my oldest daughter, she will, she's very vigilant about those things, and she understands, the pressing issues of the day, and she understands why America is important to keep. I mean, when she was in public school before I pulled her out, she was in a history class, and they were talking about communism, and this little boy was like, "Oh, Mrs. So and so, what's communism?" And the teacher said, "Oh, it's just sharing land." And so yeah, yes, everybody, that's what's
Wow.
happening in your public school. That's what they're teaching your children. If you wonder why there's all these little crazy socialists running around, that's why, because they think communism is just sharing land. But she came home and she was like, "Can you believe this?" Because I've been showing her and teaching her, even when she was in public school, these, the American values and what we don't want, how communism, socialism has ruined other countries. She's aware of, the dangers of that. And so that's why, our cottage meetings are so important, because it is so true what you say. When moms learn this stuff, we naturally pass it on to our kids. And that is exactly what has happened to me. I didn't know I was like kind of doing cottage meetings, but I was doing them, unbeknownst to myself, just learning
Right.
these things and passing it on to my children, passing it on, in my community. And like I always say, these are the things that change culture, because now these kids, my children, your children, children who are learning principles of America, the American dream, what this country was founded on and why it exists, they're not going to be able to be indoctrinated,
Mm-mm.
and so it's just amazing. How did you come up with something like cottage meetings? How did you know? What was that instinct that you knew that moms would just take this stuff in and just let it spread like wildfire? Wildfire,
So
because that's
I will.
exactly what it does.
I have to tell you that that was all God, and I just held the pen. And He
Yeah.
had to really work on me to help me realize how powerful the simplicity of this project was. So it was 2012, and there were three of us on the board at the time, and we had been praying and just fasting, even, and constantly talking, realizing where our country was going in a very fast way. And we were talking about how can we take what we have learned and put it in the hearts of mothers in a year. And we had all taken, at least a 5-year journey to get where we were. So like, how do you even do that? It seemed like a daunting task.
Yeah.
How can you possibly accomplish that? And so we just were praying and fasting and talking about it. And one day I was cleaning up after my pampered chef party, and the Lord put it on my heart. He said, "This is what it is. It's called a cottage meeting, and women already know how to do it." And
Wow.
I instantly got the concept. Oh my gosh. I've been to plenty of parties. I've hosted plenty of parties.
Yeah.
I know how to do this. Women know how
Yeah.
to do this. And we used to do baby showers and all kinds of things. What we
Mhm.
really need is a beginning, a middle, and an end. A reason to come together, something to do when you are together, and a clear, okay, we're done. Let's meet next time.
Yeah.
And so, in Hawaii, we started a bunko group to be able to do that and just, have a great time and talk and communicate. It
Yeah.
creates these little communities. It's even more than promoting liberty.
Mhm.
But I didn't understand the full power of a cottage meeting when the Lord first put it on my heart.
Mhm.
And after I got that feeling, I presented it to the other ladies on the board, and I said, this is it. This is what we're supposed to do. And they're like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know. I get the concept, but I mean, we got to have materials, right?
Right.
I don't know. And so after about a couple of weeks of this, I kept saying, man, I wish I had these materials that don't even exist, because I want to hold a cottage meeting in my home.
Mm.
Well, one night, and as a mom, you would know this, it's like that feeling that you get, like suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. And you're
Mm.
like, is the dog in? Is the house on fire?
Uh-huh.
You're just, are the doors
Yeah.
locked? You're kind of going. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, I mean, awake. It wasn't like, oh, it was
Mhm.
like, oh, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh,
Mhm.
what is going on? And I
Yeah.
felt, yes, God talks to me, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm going to admit that. I don't. He doesn't. I can't
Absolutely.
hear him. I feel him. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just felt him in this small voice say, if you want to know what a cottage meeting is, hold one in your home, and you'll know. And I'm like, okay. So I just, lay down, try to go. I cannot go to sleep. I cannot
Mm.
even express. It wasn't just about being restless and not being able to go to sleep. It was like I was incapable of sleep. Like I was like awake and,
Mhm.
and just awake.
Like a sense of urgency.
Yes, like this sense
Yeah.
of, oh my gosh, I'm tired, And
Mhm.
I felt it again louder. If you want to know what a cottage meeting is, hold one in your home and you'll know. And I'm like, and the third time it's like consumes me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I get up, I go to my computer and I pick a date, I put a simple invitation together, print out 40 copies, go back up to bed, and I went right to sleep.
Mm.
The next morning, I go downstairs in the kitchen, and the first thing I see is my computer there with these things I printed out. And I'm like, oh, I see what you did. Because you knew if you didn't do that, I'd wake up in the
Mhm.
morning and go, well, that was weird.
Right.
But now
Exactly.
I'm on a mission.
Mhm.
So during the next couple of weeks, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this meeting. We had just finished a video that my husband and I did in our living room called Hope of America. And it was just
Mhm.
trying to explain to moms why we are the hope of America,
Mhm.
and how we are the ones who can change this culture in one generation. We absolutely can.
Mhm.
And it was a very powerful video. It's like 9 minutes, 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, there's a 10-minute video. I want to show that. And I felt really inspired to show the film Monumental. It had just come out on DVD.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, but I'm thinking, oh, well, we want to keep these meetings like an hour and a half, 2 hours most. And the movie's an hour and a half. And I got this 10 minutes. And I want to explain to them what we're doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to go over. And I'm like, well, we're just going to run with it and see what
Yeah.
happens. I didn't need to worry, because I was literally pushing the last woman outside of my door at midnight. They didn't want to leave, Quisha. They were just
Yeah.
on fire. And the whole entire time that the film is going, when they arrived, I could hear them. I don't have time to get involved in anything else. Who reads anymore?
Mm.
After just one meeting, they were like, oh my gosh, where do you get these books? What should we be reading? And how can we get more involved? One
Right.
meeting. And through the whole entire film, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to them. Wow, she's a good storyteller. Did you know that? I didn't know
Mm.
that. Where do you find that? And suddenly it hit me. I know what the cottage meeting is. It's everything that inspired me.
Mm.
And so the three of us moms got together and I said, let's make a list of all the books, the stories, the resources that inspired us. And let's
Mm.
put this together.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, we had the Cottage Meeting Resource Guide.
Wow.
And that's what it is, a collection of the things that inspired us. And it
Mhm.
is so powerful that if
Mm.
all moms do is meet together once a month,
Mhm.
they will have more knowledge and understanding of the Constitution and
Yeah.
the principles of liberty. than the
Yeah.
majority of judges, elected officials, and attorneys in the country. And you and I, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've gone toe to toe. The moms with common sense talking to these elected officials that have none,
Yeah.
because we have the cottage meeting. And the other thing that happens is they don't want to meet once a month. After the
Mm.
first meeting, they're like, well, can we meet next week?
Right. Right.
Most of them are meeting weekly. And so
Yeah.
we had to step up some more. Okay, what do we do next? You know,
Right.
so added some
Yeah.
more additional programs.
That is so funny. So, can you tell us the story about the mom who, after taking the cottage meeting series, she went to her legislator and he was asking her to? Can you tell us that story? It's
Absolutely.
hilarious.
There's like several stories like that, but this has got to be one of my favorites. So she texted me and she was like, I just want to thank you so much for doing these cottage meetings. And she said what we hear from everybody. It was life changing. She's like, changed my life.
Mm.
And she said, I was just talking to my state representative the other day, her elected official, and they were talking about a constitutional principle. And he asked her if she could slow down because he wanted to take notes. Well, it's that powerful. So I did a radio show.
Crazy.
I just called in to a radio show several years ago, and they were talking about the radio host was talking about mandated sentences, and I'm like, my head's exploding. Not justice, not blind justice.
Mm.
And so I called in and I got on and I had like, okay, this is like crazy because I had like a little over a 4-minute conversation with this guy. Now, someone calling in, because you're familiar with radio, that's like unheard of for a caller.
Right.
For a
It's a
whole
long
segment with
time.
someone who's been invited on, it's like 8 minutes,
Yeah.
So to be on as a caller for like almost 4 minutes is like unheard of.
Right.
So I was speaking to him, and towards the end of the call, he said, well, ma'am, what branch of law do you practice? And I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a mom. And he started laughing. He goes, I love that. And he said, how do you know all this? And I said, well, let me tell you about the cottage meeting. So I got another 60 seconds to just promote the cottage meeting.
Yeah.
So it's that powerful. And we hear that all the time.
Yeah. And, and yes, they do inform you about the principles of the Constitution. Yes, you will be informed. But the other thing that I have found that cottage meetings do, because our country was founded with biblical principles that are directly tied into the Constitution, it led me to sit down more with my own children and start reading the Bible more. It led me to want to, like when we were talking about, some of these things, I'm like, oh, that's in the Bible. Okay, kids. So let's, we're going to sit down and read about this and see how this is tied to our country. And it's so cool because, and that's a part of, that's a feature of, cottage meetings, is that it's like the kitchen table getting back to spending more time together as a family and just bonding together, because I think that it has just been so incredibly lost in our country. I mean, we can see and just where things are going in our country just over the last couple of weeks, all the shootings and the it's heartbreaking. And we spend a lot of time focused on all of these exterior things, the gun, the school, all of the things outside. But another thing that I love about Moms for America and our cottage meetings is that it turns the focus inside. It turns it back internally into figuring out what's going on, what's inspiring you as a mother, what's going to inspire your children, your family inside of your own home. And again, that's the thing that changes culture. And I think we miss that a lot of times in our country nowadays because things are so politicized. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about like what is going on with this child that he would want to go and shoot up a grocery store or an elementary school. What is going on with our young people that they don't have any hope? They don't have any, there's no, that they want to do things that are evil. I know you can't, I don't know, Kimberly, you can solve a lot of problems. Maybe you can solve that problem.
Well, you're so right. It's the principles and values that anchor us. And they give a lot of lip service when things like this happen to the first thing they want to do is politicize people's pain with the whole gun thing. Right. And then the next thing they want to do is talk about, giving lip service to the whole mental health crisis, but they never do anything about it. It's like those who are trying to destroy the country love crises. And as you know, like the guy before, Roma Emanuel, said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Well, we're having crisis after crisis, and they're certainly not letting them go to waste. And they keep moving the needle towards anti-freedom, anti-family, anti-values, and anti-God. And
Yes.
it may, sound oversimplified to some people, but we turn to God and a lot of things are going to change because we put
Absolutely.
ourselves above him, and we've made our own self-interest more important than anything else. We don't know how to serve anymore. We don't even know how to work anymore. And we just do a lot of complaining, and then things happen and we don't understand why. So I can tell you, because I've seen both sides of what they're doing to our children.
Yeah.
When you strip away the purpose and the passion that gives them something to believe in and hope for, then what do they have left? They have to fill in the holes. So there was a woman, this is a book that we promote. It's called Forgotten Stories. And the woman who wrote it, her name is Lydia Nuttall. And several years ago, she was losing her son. He was 13 years old, and she could see it. She'd seen it for about 2 years escalate and just get worse and worse, where he was just becoming more inward, and she could not understand what was wrong.
Yeah.
And she got on her knees and she asked, that's how you parent on your knees, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But she got on her knees and she asked the Lord, what can I do? I'm going to lose my son. I'm losing him. I feel I'm losing him. And the Lord told her to homeschool. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. But she was blessed enough to have a really great group of moms in her community that had a co-op. It was a leadership-based co-op, American History Heritage leadership-based co-op. And so she decided to homeschool. She got some mentoring she needed. She put him in there. Within 6 months, that boy had completely turned around.
Wow.
100%. He had something to hope for, because he was learning about the courageous acts of those who had gone before us, who had preserved our freedom and fought for it. He was learning about characters that he wanted to emulate. He was learning about how great America was and the principles that it stood for. What our children are learning in schools are not that. It's how to hate America, how to hate our neighbors, how to hate our friends, how to hate ourselves.
Yes.
To divide from your parents. And so they're like disconnected from anything that anchors them. And what the cottage meeting does is anchor really that whole family, because the mother is the center. And when she inspires others. And everything we've done in the cottage meeting links the family together. Try this family enrichment activity, share this with your children. We tie it all in together as a family experience. And then you can come back and talk about it, what worked in your home, what didn't. I mean, it really is life-changing. And that's what this boy experienced. He went into this co-op where he had an anchor again, where he had something to believe in bigger than himself. Everything wasn't horrible. Everything wasn't dark. It's like our children are walking around in this gray world, and the fog never clears. So now this boy, he has graduated from, I believe it was the Citadel. It was one of the military academies. He had endorsements from 4 different members of Congress to go. He is just an amazing man. And now he's going around teaching people the story of America and why it's so important that we share it.
Wow. All of talking to you, like I said, you're so inspirational. You have all of these amazing stories. Y'all have to go and just find Kimberly Fletcher's work. I'm telling you, you will just you won't be sorry. It's just an incredible woman. But who would have known that America coming to God giving his blessing on this land, giving his everything that he's done through America, that it would not only be a nation that promoted liberty and free speech and, the Second Amendment to, protecting yourself, having, your property rights and those things, but that it would inspire people to give of themselves more, to do more. Because I think your first thought is like, because we have a sense of like the individual, we want our individual rights, we want to be respected as individuals, which is biblical. But that individuality, when it's done right, it pushes you to want to do more. It pushes you to want to serve more. It pushes you to want to
be more.
to help, to what?
To be more.
To be more. And it's like, but America, the idea, it's so much more than just, that document, the Constitution, which is, certainly the most incredible document known to man. but it just pushes you to do so many more. It's inspiring. It doesn't kind of, I'm struggling here because it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, why are these words on this paper so impactful? Why does it do that? It's really kind of
Revolutionary.
incredible. Yeah. It's really unique when you think about it. Like, how does that, it pushes you to be more. It really does. You
It
would
does.
think it
And
would make
even
you want to be more selfish, but it doesn't.
no, it makes you want to be a better person, to give more, to do more, to serve more. It
Yeah.
does. And that's, our founding families, and it wasn't just founding fathers, it's the founding families.
Yeah.
They gave so much.
Yeah.
America isn't just a place where we raise our kids, it's an
Yeah.
ideal. And
Right.
patriotism is loyalty to that ideal. And
Yeah.
our founding fathers and their families sacrificed so much
Mm.
that there's an incredible story about Elizabeth Endsley Lewis and her husband, and their two children. And the British were brutal. I mean, they used the Indians to ransack and destroy whole communities and
Mhm.
take off with their women and children, and they just did despicable things.
Mhm.
And Americans, I'm not saying that there weren't people on our side that did despicable things, but they as a whole entire unit did
Yeah.
despicable things. They believed that they had every right to do so because they had the king.
Right.
And
Mhm.
Americans repelled that because they'd been free for 200 years and they'd been self-sufficient. They didn't have this hierarchy of, if you wear a crown or you wear a certain label, that you're more important than me.
Right.
Everybody worked or they didn't eat. Everybody
That's right.
served or they didn't survive.
That's
And
right.
it was a very unique community and idea that was created from that. So
Mhm.
when our founding families got together, they sacrificed everything for that dream. The men and the women and the children.
Yeah.
One of the despicable things that the British did is they were starving our prisoners. And
Mm.
there was a prison ship, and two of the boys, Elizabeth's children, and her husband was a signer of the Declaration. Their children were taken prisoners, and the one I think was like barely 20, and the other was only 16. They were
Mm.
put in the prison ship and they were starved. And there was a letter sent to the Lewises saying, you recant this, or we're going to starve your children to death.
Mm.
And I mean, could you imagine the scene? They never recanted, neither one of them.
Yeah.
But here they are sitting with this letter, and Elizabeth sobbing, and her husband sobbing with her, with his arms wrapped around her, because they knew, we'll give up our money, we'll give up our lives, but we can't give up our sacred honor. We can't
Right.
go back on this commitment that we have made, this statement that
Yeah.
that means something. And their sons were eventually released, because when word got to Parliament, or the United States Continental Government at the time,
Mhm.
when it got to the Continental Army, what was happening, they sent a letter to the British government saying, well, we are going to treat your prisoners the way you're treating our prisoners, so you might want to rethink how you're treating your prisoners. So they decided to stop starving them, and their sons were eventually released, but they had no
Mm.
idea. They had no
Right.
idea if they were going to have their sons back. And we have no idea the price that these families paid for what we
Mhm.
take so lightly today. And
Yes.
and that has not just become a thing that I know. That has
Mhm.
become a part of who I am.
Mhm.
And that is what we do when we teach the heart. If we just want to throw dates and names
Mhm.
and war battles into people's heads, it comes and goes after they pass the test. But
Right.
if you really want to put something into the heart of somebody, then you put it into their heart with
Yeah.
a story, with a
Yes.
personal experience, and it
Mhm.
becomes who they are, not just what they know. And that is not something that you just lightly sweep away.
That's so, oh my gosh. I told you guys. I told you. I told you. She's incredible. I have goosebumps. Oh my gosh. That is so true. So, so true. And when in school nowadays, when they make it public school, they make it, just about the memorization, no, the dates, who is involved, and it's just there's no connection to it. They don't
No.
make it real for people. They don't make it so that you understand what was on the line. And I think that's why now, I know it is why now that people don't understand what is on the line, what we are about to lose. Even the politicians, it is sick, that we just right here in my own county, we have a majority Republican city council who has just voted to increase our a new tax. First of all, we've had three new taxes. One of them is a gas tax. Where, okay, how do we have three new taxes with a majority Republican city council? That's number one. And then we even had a a bill presented to rescind this last gas tax, which was voted down again by Republicans. And it's like, do you not understand what we're going through as citizens? Do you not understand? Like, it is just becomes so disconnected from what really matters. And people, I feel like people are just, these politicians are just playing with our lives, Kim. I feel like they just do not care anymore. They don't understand that all these rules and taxes and like now Biden is talking about gun control, just this heavy-handed, huge, bloated federal government. I mean, all of it. It's just sick. It is sick, and we I feel like we have just been discarded, not thought about. We are not. They come for our vote. We think that because you're a Republican that, okay, we're gonna, we're siding with the good guys, and then they just toss us aside. Like we just don't matter. And for me, and I know for people like you, when they're doing this, we're thinking about our kids. We are thinking about the America that our children will grow up in. And my God, what is this going to look like? It just weighs, this stuff weighs heavy on my heart because I just, feel like our country is just such in a place that it worries me. I mean, I try not to worry because, as a Christian, I'm like, okay, I know what happens. We win in the end, but it's like,
Yeah, but it's really painful in the
I
middle.
know, but it's painful and it's scary. It is. I have to admit it is. So yeah, it's just so disconnected because it's
Well,
just
there's
dates and
there's
times,
some
and it's not made real to people.
right, and there's something you said that they don't care, and they do care about something. They care about themselves. They're using it's kind of like the whole welfare thing. It's like kind of all tied together. It's a Bolshevik idea. It's a Satan idea where you feel like you have to rely on something. So like the welfare system, it's handed down from generation to generation like some kind of inheritance.
Right.
And the only way that you can get ahead is by having more children or not being married. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a horribly flawed system.
Yes.
And the people who are in political office, they do the same kind of thing. They bank on the government. So people are either living on the government or they're benefiting from the government. So
Yeah.
when you're serving in government, this is exactly what happened in Germany. And in Germany during World War II, the people who were most highly respected were those who were working for the government because they knew that they have a position, a prestige, they have an income that they can count on. Where
Yeah.
all the working slobs, we can only count on what we can do with our work.
Right.
And so there was just like this hierarchy type of respect that went with them. And same thing is happening now,
Yeah.
only not with us. We, the American people, are looking at them going, who do you think you are?
Right.
And they're standing there going, well, look at who we are. And so what they're doing is they're taking advantage of being in the positions that they are in government to make money, to get their children in prestigious positions, to get them in the best colleges, to have long-term residual benefits financially, get the next job. It's this whole entire idea of using the government to provide for your own personal well-being. We don't think that way, and they do. But David Cassidy said something. The singer, he said something a few years before he passed away. He said, if you think he said, I remember when it was like really lonely at the top. You think it's really lonely at the top? Wait till you're at the bottom. So I've actually talked to some of these people who served in government who, when they left, felt literally lost. like completely lost.
Mm.
If they didn't go on to that, that next job or the next perk or something, or they just walked away, it's like, but the monarchy, where'd it go? It's like living in the court.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by these people who all think the same way, walk the same way, talk the same
Yep.
way, and so you're just fitting right in. Suddenly, you go out in the real world, and you're like, where's their anchor?
Right.
Well, their anchor is selfishness, self-centeredness, self-esteem, not self-value. There's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference between the two. One is selfish, one is
Mm-hmm.
not.
Yep.
And I think, we have a self-worth that we recognize because we really work
Mm-hmm.
for what we have, and
Yeah.
we fight for what we believe in.
Yeah.
And they don't really work. They take
Mm-mm.
advantage of a lot of people,
Yeah.
and they're not all like that. I mean, I think Jim Jordan is awesome. They're
Yes.
very few.
They're not all like that.
There are very few statesmen out there, and that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we do teach in the cottage meeting is, do you want to be a statesman or a politician?
Mm.
And if you're looking at those who are serving in public office, and you show them the difference between a statesman and a politician, the very next question is, well, who do you want in media? Who do you want in the libraries? Who do you want teaching your kids, a statesman or a politician? Who do you want in clergy? Who do you want? And
Yeah.
who are you going to be yourself? If
Mm.
we start with ourselves, and that old adage, sweep your own kitchen, your own front porch first, we're
Mm-hmm.
taking care of ourselves. We're nurturing those ideas in the hearts of our children.
Yeah.
We literally can turn this around in one generation. And I'll just tell you a quick story. I know I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No,
But
you're fine. This is good.
there's a story of the hula. When our family moved to Hawaii, I wanted to do everything we could possibly do and leave with no regrets. So we got this book, and it was like Oahu Revealed. We got one for every one of the islands. We went and saw things nobody even knows exist.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that everybody knows exists is the Polynesian Cultural Center.
Mm-hmm.
And Polynesian Cultural Center is like a theme park for visiting islands. Like you could go visit the islands by going to these different sections in the park. It's really kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
And so we went there. We've gone there numerous times, and there was the Hawaii Island, the Tahitian Island, Samoan Island. And I'd never gone, after going like 7 or 8 times. I'd never gone to the Hawaii Island because I'm like living here. What do I need to go there for? But one day it was the only one that was open, and it was about to rain, and they had a roof.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in there. Best thing ever. I think God made it rain.
Yeah.
So we go in, and they're telling us the story of the hula. The hula was more than just, shaking a skirt. And actually that's Tahiti. The sarong is Hawaii. But
Mm.
it was their language. It was how they preserved their language, their heritage, their culture. Those dances meant something. That was how they communicated, how they passed on who they were. And
Mm.
when the English missionaries came to America, the queen at the time decided that the hula was a pagan ritual that needed to be banned. And so she, as the government, completely banned the hula. Close the schools. You can't do this. Don't teach this. Don't even talk about it. Completely get rid of it, or you're going to be punished.
Wow.
You would go to jail. I don't know, she may have even hung you or something. I don't know. But it was you don't do it.
Yeah.
So a couple of decades later, the new monarch on the crown, he went around the Europe. It was the first time a monarch had ever left, and anyone had left Hawaii to travel the world. And this monarch went and he traveled through Europe. And as he was going to these various different places in Spain and England and France, and he was seeing the culture, this unique culture, and their music, and how beautiful it was and unique to them. And then he was like, we should do that in Hawaii. And then he's like, wait a minute. Didn't we have something unique to our culture? And so he went back home, and he pulled his advisors together, and he said, that a hula thing, how do we do that? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they was asking all of his advisors, and no one knew. They thought the hula was dead. And then, unbeknownst to them, they realized a whole entire nation of children had been nurtured and taught the hula.
Wow.
Their grandmothers, their mothers, their parents and grandparents had taught them in the silence in their homes, in their backyards when no one was looking. They preserved it. The government told them, don't do it or you will be punished.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we're going to do it because we want our children to know.
Yeah.
And so they thought the hula was dead, and suddenly all these children rise up and say, we know how to do it because our mothers taught us. And this is exactly what's happening right now. This is the power of the cottage meeting. When I tell you it's
Mm.
life changing, it's not superfluous, it's true.
Yeah.
That you understand who you are, where you
Hmm.
came from, what your
Hmm.
history is, your heritage, your culture,
Yeah.
why we are a great American melting pot. What were
Yeah.
those foundational values? When we know those things and we put them in the hearts of our children, there is going to come a day when people are going to cry out,
Mm.
where is liberty? And how do we do it?
Mm.
And our children will rise up carrying that
Mm.
banner of freedom and saying, we know
Blessed
because our
Jesus.
mothers taught us.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Kimberly Fletcher. Oh my gosh. That's so good.
I get
It's
a little
so
passionate, sorry.
inspiring. Huh?
I get a little passionate, sorry.
No, my God, that just it gives me hope myself. And I know everyone listening to this, it's going to give them hope too. It's going to penetrate the hearts. That's exactly what it does, because we cannot forget. We cannot forget, because there will come a time where people are looking for people, just like they were looking for the hula.
Right.
And there are going to be that remnant. There's going to be that remnant that rises up and is ready to step forward and lead and nurture and teach and be able to inspire others. And we cannot forget that. And it is so important that we keep things like our cottage meetings going. So important that we continue to teach our children the importance of liberty and biblical principles and values, and, like you said earlier, getting back to God. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. So good. I was going to ask you to tell one more story that I love that you tell. If you really quickly, as we have like, I know you're a super busy woman, but if you could just quickly tell us about when you and your family were in, oh God, was it? I think maybe you were in Hawaii. Anyway, you were taking a trip, and I think it was Cassie that saw the sign on the side of the road, and you thought
Sign on the side of the road.
yes.
I need to pull up the picture so I always screw it up when I try to just do it on my own. I've
Okay.
actually added it to my phone now because I've realized I need to have this on my phone so that I have it anytime I can tell the story, because what is written on this is so beautiful. So our family
Yes.
had spent 3 years in Hawaii, and it was beautiful because I was able to, every morning my walk was Pearl Harbor, and that was pretty awesome. And it was early mornings. That was the time I would make my phone calls and everything. But in all the places that we would go and the things that we'd see, we were always searching for what is that unique thing where I can teach the children something. And I found one without even realizing it. And this is another example of why your children are why nurturing these things in the hearts of your children is so powerful, because it was my daughter that saw it. It's actually Amber, our token liberal I was
Oh,
talking about. She
okay.
loves it when I say that. She was 14 at the time, and we'd gone to the Bedouin temple numerous times. Bedouin temple is in Kailua, Hawaii. It's on Oahu, and it's literally a Bedouin temple. It's amazing. It looks like you're in Japan
Oh,
or China or something.
yeah.
And they had this big gong, and you put $1 in this little bucket, and you could do the gong. Well, my children kept gonging. My two boys were gonging
Yeah.
so much that I think I own stock in the Bedouin temple. But anyway, so we've been there a lot.
Yeah.
And they have the black swans and this beautiful koi. You could feed the koi. It was just a great place to just go because it was so unique. It was kind of like I'd been to China and Japan without having to be there.
Yeah.
And so one day, after we'd been there over a dozen times, we're driving in to the parking lot, and you turn right to go in the parking lot. As we're turning, my daughter in the back of the seat says, Mom, that sign says Garden of Americas. And I said, what? And I look around, and sure enough, down there, we'd passed it so many times, this little
Yeah.
wooden sign that said Gardens of America.
Mm.
And I said, well, there's a road. Let's go up there and see what's up there. So
Hmm.
we got to the top of the road, and what I saw was this large rock monument with a flag on it. The flag caught my attention. I was like, well, what's that? And so I went up there, and this is what it said. It was a monument. It said America at the top with a flag. And it said, in response to the promise of liberty, opportunity, justice, and freedom of religion, we left our native lands, which we loved so dearly, and coming from the farthest corners of the world, we arrived in America. We fished in her waters, farmed in her fields, worked in her factories, sold her products, and realized that here in this beautiful land, We had fulfilled our hopes and dreams for ourselves and our children. Now united as one people, we work toward our goal of living as equal Americans. God bless America and the people who made her strong. I
Mm.
read that and I was so touched. I went on this massive journey to find out who put that sign there, who erected this monument, when did
Mhm.
it happen. I wanted all the history about it.
Mhm.
Nothing. I could find nothing. The
Mm.
people who the guards who stand outside the front
Yeah.
of the whole entire, they never even knew it was there. I would
Wow.
send people over, okay, go see this hidden monument after we hold a cottage meeting. And they'd go to the front and say, where do I find it? And they'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was there. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then after I'm like going on this massive search for who did it and when, I
Mhm.
suddenly realized it doesn't matter
Mm.
who, when, or how. What
Yeah.
matters is why. And
Mm.
immediately I remembered the story of Joshua and how when he went across dry land and parted the Jordan River, the Lord
Mm.
parted the Jordan River through this miracle. The Lord told him to take 12 large rocks
Mhm.
and put
And
them up as a monument so that when
mhm.
your children go by
Mm.
generations from now and they ask,
Woo.
what do those rocks mean? They will say, it is the miracle, to remind them of the miracle of crossing the Jordan on dry land. That
Woo.
that monument, every monument across the country, the signs on this in the Supreme Court building, there are monuments everywhere.
Yes.
Why? To remind us and our
Mm.
children of the miracle
Yeah.
of America.
Ugh. I told you guys. I told you. Oh, I heard this story the other day at the FPA conference, and I was just, first of all, I'm not gonna lie, I cried. But when I heard it, it was just so powerful. It's so powerful. Just yes, the
And that
monument,
is the power
the
of a story.
memory.
The
Yes.
power of a story. It
Yeah.
it, it there's a great quote that says, it's more this. It's not the wars and the battles that shape a country, but the stories that we believe in, that we love and believe in, and
Yeah.
it's the story that unites us. Did our government make bad decisions in the past? Of course. Did individual people make poor decisions? Yes. But to
Mhm.
just take whole lumps of people, countries, or cultures and say they're all bad or they're all good, or a race or a color, that's just wrong.
It's
People
wrong.
are good and bad on all sides. I mean, when people talk about slavery's been around for centuries, and it's
Yeah.
wrong. It was
Yeah.
never right. And
Right.
no, nobody talks about the fact that the black tribal leaders thought,
Mhm.
what a great way to get guns and stuff. I've got these slaves that I have and these people that I'm
Mhm.
keeping from other tribes. I can make
Mhm.
money by selling them to these white guys. Oh, what a bunch of
Yeah.
idiots. Sure, here you go. and
Right.
and so they were already doing it. And then
Mhm.
there were also black slave owners in America, and
Yeah.
the first slaves were Irish. So
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just start telling the truth of what's going on. It
So
has
true.
absolutely nothing to do with anything
Yeah.
other than good and evil,
Yeah.
right and wrong. It
That's
is
it.
that simple. And
Yeah.
and I have had people who do these um, they call them multiple different things, but it's people recognize as critical race theory, but it's
Mhm.
they're teaching it in various different formats. They're teaching racism. They're
Mhm.
teaching us to not like each other. They're teaching us that
Yes.
we can't get along because the
Right.
only way that you can conquer a people is to divide them first.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
historically, that is the way it's always happened. But
Yeah.
if we can unite around this story of America, connect with the principles that unite us, freedom is a pretty simple concept,
Yeah.
and most people want it. It's a
Right.
very small group of people who think they're going to be at the top and
Right.
exempt from all the tyranny that's coming,
Yep.
that are planning on ruling over us. But that is
Mhm.
not the majority of who we are. And
Right.
we need to unite together, stand together, and not allow that invisible hand convincing us we can't get along and dividing us to
Right.
do so any longer. We are a united people.
Yeah.
And as united, we will stand
Yeah.
against all of the tyranny and oppression that's coming our way.
That's right. Foreign and domestic. That's right. Just really quick, as you were telling, talking about slavery and things like that, one of the things that just irritates me so much, and this was even like when I did the Dr. Phil show talking about critical race theory, they like to sum Black Americans up into, I always say it's slavery, Jim Crow, and civil rights. Like that was it. They forget the stories that they forget the progress that Black Americans made coming out of slavery. They forget, they never want to tell you about, how we were reading, learning to read in little corners, pockets of different communities and things like that. They never want to tell you the fast progress that we made 100 years after slavery. They never want to tell you about those stories that were passed on. You will hear
Booker T.
sometimes
Washington. You never hear about Booker T. Washington during Black History Month. Why?
he's not a
Because he
favorite.
was an incredible man with an incredible life. And
Exactly.
they can talk about Frederick Douglass because they pick the pre-freedom guy with the post-freedom guy. I'm not talking about slavery and non-slavery. I'm
Mm,
talking about when he realized that America is the wellspring of freedom
that's
before
right.
he realized that it was.
Yeah.
And he knew that what was created needed to be sustained and advanced.
Yes,
Booker T.
he knew that.
Washington, from the day he was born, he was all about that.
Oh
And
yeah.
what he fought for an education and the hard work and what he created at Tuskegee,
Mhm.
that's what the Black culture is about.
Yeah.
The incredible gospel songs that they brought to us. That okay,
Mhm.
there's some pretty awesome soul food that came from that. But I
Exactly.
mean, there's a
Yeah.
whole entire culture that has become a part of our culture that
Yeah.
they're trying to separate and divide. I love that culture. So
Yes.
we
Most
only have to.
Americans do. We
I
all share
know.
in each other's culture. That is part of the American experience. There, I was talking to my boyfriend the other day and I said, I don't care where you go, because he was talking about when he went to he didn't go to Auschwitz, he went to the other camp. The one, it starts with
Dachau.
yes. And he was like, when you walk in there, he's like, nobody's really saying anything. It's just it's very like there's a spirit
I
of
don't see how
it's
you
very
could. I
solemn.
don't
And
see how, yeah, you can't say anything when you do that.
yeah, it's like, he was talking about that. And then, he was just sharing with me his experience of around Europe. And he was like, this guy came up to him and was talking, and he was like, he was very close to his face, and he was like, as Americans, like we don't do that very well, like, because we need our space. And he was like, he was just talking about the uniqueness of being an American in another country.
Mhm.
And I was like, that is so funny, because you can share the same skin color as someone else in another country, but there is a difference between an American. You can tell the difference.
Yes,
Like,
you
we
can.
share this. I can be just as brown as somebody else, somebody in Africa or Europe or whatever. But honey, that American in me I am going to be uniquely different, and we were just laughing about that, because it's just something about being an American. It's recognizable. People can tell, like, oh, they're American. And I love that it's our own unique thing. It is unlike anything else that exists in the world. And so thank
Because
you.
it's an ideal. And I'd have to
Yeah.
repeat, it's not just where we raise our children. It's not a landmass. It's of rocks and rivers and trees. It is an ideal. You don't
Yeah.
hear Irishism or Englishism or
Right.
Africanism. It's Americanism. And
Yeah.
people around the world come
Yeah.
here and are looking for it. There's two things I would, anybody who's listening, I just would love for you. You want to get a really good grasp of what America's about and what the American dream is. Read Up from Slavery, the autobiography of Booker T.
Oh
Washington,
yes.
and
Oh.
watch the film The Girl Who Wore America.
Oh, that's one I don't have.
Watch that film. It's that also is life changing.
The girl
We
who
have added both of those into our resources at Cottage Meeting because I found them after the original book was done.
Oh
But those
man.
are very powerful, powerful resources. And one of the things we do at the Cottage Meeting is did all the work for you. So we gathered all these books that are great stories like The
Yeah.
Giver and others that teach you
Mhm.
these principles of freedom without you even realizing. You're reading a good story and
Right.
you're like, when you sit and you have a discussion about it, you're like, wow. I mean, this
Mhm.
is a great way. You read these books to your kids and you talk about it.
Yeah.
And then they have a better understanding of what freedom is. And
Mm.
even something as simple as the Sneetches and Yertle Turtle and the Emperor's New Clothes. I mean, we read these
Oh
stories to our kids and our kids
yeah.
are
Yeah.
look at what's happening in the world and go, what's wrong with you crazy loon people? And
Right.
maybe we'll turn it around.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have Booker T. Washington's book. It is incredible. It is definitely a must read. And it's the mind. I mean, it's so amazing. You think like this man was born a slave. Like, how did he even know? It was instinct for him. He wasn't taught this. It was an instinct. And anyway, but can you tell everyone all I know you have a lot of things going on. So we have momsforamerica.us. So that is where you can go. You can sign up for our newsletter, get our podcast. We have that. But anything else that you want our listeners to share, to know about, what else do you want to tell us?
Well, I hope that they'll come visit the website over the course of the next couple of weeks, because we have a whole entire initiative that we're launching called Restoring Patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath it, we're going to have Patriot packs for the kids. We're going to relaunch the Cottage Meeting. We have our new books and resources done, a long time that we're working on that. Just some really great things from National Constitution Bees with prizes to celebrating Constitution Week. Just a way to bring us all together and look for something we can do united, that's fun, that's engaging. We're the fun table. So all these things are going to be rolling out the next couple of weeks. And I would just, photo contests, Liberty trips, just all kinds of really exciting things that are coming underneath our Restoring Patriotism initiative. And it's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh my
So check
God.
us out.
Yes, I will make sure to put all the links in the description box below. You guys make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. I want you to tell me what story today that we talked about that touched your heart, or share a story that we didn't talk about that your family talks about that inspires you to be more liberty minded. Thank you, Kim, so very much. Thank you for your being obedient to even start Moms for America. Thank you for the Cottage Meetings. Thank you for everything that you give to this organization. I cannot tell you enough how impactful you are. When you walk into a room, you don't know this, but when people whisper and they see you coming or they know you're going to speak, people have so many great things to say, and they are so ready to be impacted by you in some way, because they just know that when you are in front of people, you're going to inspire them, and they are looking to you, not to put too much on you, but people certainly look to you.
No pressure.
Seriously, no pressure, but people are looking to you to do what you do so well and give us inspiration. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything with us. I love you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I always love hanging with you, Quisha.
Likewise. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.